Sarah's Stamper Retreat. Today we're going to be doing some stenciling techniques and making some Christmas cards using this kit from the latest Chloe's Creative Cards magazine box kit. So you get the magazine showing you tons of different projects that you can create with it, lots of different inspiration ideas. Then you also get this little die set, so you've got Season's Greetings with the detail and the outline, and then you've got these teeny little dies as well, so you've got a snowflake, a little candy cane, a couple of baubles and a gingerbread man. So then obviously we're going to be focusing on this and using it in lots of different ways. So sometimes I think we look at a stencil and we think, oh, it's kind of one-dimensional, but I'm going to be showing you lots of different ways to use it. Then we've got this really pretty snowflake embossing folder, which we won't use today, but I do really like there. Then we've got this big stamp set, and I really like the images that you get on here. You get some really cute little houses, this sweet reindeer, snowman, all sorts of things, and a few nice sentiments in there as well. And then finally you get the paper pack. This normally comes in the centre of the magazine. So we've got all these cut apart pieces. This make a lovely scenic card. You could use it for one long card, or you could cut it into two and make two square cards with some matting and layering. It's really difficult to fit the whole thing on my screen, but I'm hoping you can get the most of it. So you've got this, you've got some more scenes on this side and some sentiments as well. Loads of pretty patterns. And then we're back to the beginning, so you get two of each sheet. So let's get on and make some cards. So for my first card, I'm going to use some of the Indigo Blu Gilding Gum. So I'll give that a little shake. And I'm just going to squeeze just a little out onto just a clear acrylic block. And then I'm going to add a little of this Luscious pigment powder. And then I'm going to mix that together. That is the Grungy gold, by the way, that I'm mixing here. And then I've got my stencil and a piece of navy cardstock. I'm just going to add this one here. And then I'm going to use a bit of an older blending brush. You don't want to use like your nice new ones. And I'm just going to blend that into the North Pole bit. And then I've got some of this one. This is some that I made up before with the Penny Dreadful Luscious powder. And it's a little hard because it's a bit old. What I can do is just add a little extra gilding gum in and mix it up just to make that a bit looser again. And I'm just putting it on the same block because there's so little of the gold left that it won't really make a difference. And then I don't want to get it on another blending brush either, so I'm just using the same blending brush. So now I'm going to lift this up, and then we've got this shiny stencil piece. So I've cut this down to 5 by 3 3/4, and then I've just cut this gold piece 1/8 of an inch bigger. So I'm going to glue those together. And then I'm just going to add some foam to the back and add it to my card front. And then I'm just going to decorate it with some of these fresh and gold embellishments from Spellbinders. So there's that card finished. So then for my next card, I'm only going to use the border of the stencil. So I'm going to just hold it in place. Then I'm going to take my Pine Needles Distress Oxide ink and just one of these detail blending brushes, and I'm just going to add that onto the kind of wavy pattern. So I'm just going to give this a quick wipe with a water wipe because when I put the red on, I don't want it mixing with the green and going kind of brown. But equally, Normally I would just rinse my stencils under a tap, but I don't want it getting really wet now because I want to use it straight again with the red ink. So let's pop that back down again. So then I'm just going to go over the little stars with the red. So now I've got that nice border, and obviously I've gone over here, but that's fine because we're going to cover that up with some cardstock, and I've gone over a bit around the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this down and pop it onto another card. Okay, so I've created a 5¼ inch card blank from red cardstock. Then I've cut this piece down to 5 inches square. Then I've got this that is just under 3¼ inches square. Now I've also just stamped and coloured the reindeer from the stamp set. So then I've got this Festive Wishes sentiment, and I'm going to heat emboss there in white embossing powder onto this green cardstock. So then I'm going to glue this piece onto my card blank. I'm going to pop this red layer up on some foam. And then I'm going to pop some foam pads behind my reindeer. You can always see when I'm doing things like this that I'm constantly doing stuff, deciding I don't like it, turning the paper over. So then I'm going to pop a bit of glue in the middle of there, and then some foam pads on either end. And then I can pop that up at the bottom. So then that's that card done. So then for my next card, I have this huge piece of navy cardstock. I don't need it all, but I want to do this and then cut a circle out of it. And I don't know exactly how much I'm going to need, so I'm just going to do it in the corner and then I'll cut it out. And then the rest of the paper will be used on a different project. So for this card, I don't want any paste going into this outside bit. So I'm going to just add tape all the way around the outside just to block that bit off. I bought this purple tape years ago and decided I didn't really like it too much, so now I just use it for things like this, which is perfect for, because it's kind of a temporary tape. I found it's a bit sticky, the particular one I bought for like adding down die cuts. It kind of tears the paper, but it's perfect for things like this. So I've got these Craft Artist Starlight Fusion paste, and they look really similar in the pot. You can see they've just got a hint of a colour, but when you add them to a darker paper like this, they do show up a lot more. So I am going to add this in little stripes. So I'm going to add this one, which is the ruby at the top. I'm just going to add a bit across like there. And that bit that I've not used is going back in here. And then I'm going in with the blue, which is called Sapphire. And then I'm going to go in with the green, which is the Emerald. So let's lift that up. It seems that I didn't quite stick my tape down well enough on this side. So let's try and remove some of this. So then I've cut a circle around the North Pole piece. Then I've got a red circle that's just a little bigger. And then I've got 2 blue circles. These ones measure about 5½ inches. I'm going to create these into a card blank. So to do that, I'm just going to cut a sliver off one side of the circle. Then I'm going to turn that around and I'm going to line this up on this end so it's nice and straight, so that I know that I'm scoring a parallel line, and then I'm just going to score that line parallel to it about 1/2 inch from the opposite side. So then I'm just going to add some glue above that score line, and I'm going to add on my other navy circle. Then I'm going to just glue my North Pole piece onto my red circle. Then I'm going to add some odds and ends of foam that I've got lying around to this. So you can see this is just a piece that I die cut for something else, and I didn't need it in the end. You can use all those bits and pieces. Nobody's going to see it, so it doesn't matter what it looks like. I can add some glue to there. And I'm just going to pop that on here. And then this piece over here, where my embossing paste went under the tape, I've actually just coloured it with navy marker so it doesn't stand out so much. And then I'm just going to add this over, and that will kind of hide that as well. So I'm just going to add some foam behind that too. And then I'm just going to grab a red gem and pop it in the centre of that snowflake to tie it all together. In fact, maybe I'll just pop one in the middle of that seal as well. And then I'll just grab one of these tiny ones and pop it in there. So then there's that card finished. So then for my next card, we're going to do a heat embossing technique. So I'm going to add some embossing ink refill to an acrylic block. I love to keep this to hand because it's relatively inexpensive. It lasts for ages and you can do so many techniques with it. So I'm just inking up my brayer with that ink. And I've got a piece of scrap paper just to protect my surface. And then I'm just going to ink up my stencil. But you need to make sure that you're inking up the back of your stencil, not the front. Otherwise, when you print it, it's going to be the wrong way round. So I'm just going to ink up the back of that stencil. So then I'm going to add my scrap paper into my embossing sandwich. I'm going to add on my stencil. Then I'm going to add on a piece of white cardstock. And then I'm going to add on my adapter plate and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. So then I've got this piece with the embossing ink transferred and I'm just going to heat emboss that in gold. So then I can just heat that up with my heat tool. So then there's that lovely shiny piece. And then I'm going to grab my alcohol markers and just colour that in. So then there's my coloured piece, and I've cut that to 5 inches square. I've got this navy piece which is 1/8 of an inch bigger than that, and then I've got a 5.5 inch square red card blank. So I'm just going to glue those together. Then I'm just going to add some red gems to just decorate the pattern. Then there's that card finished. So then for my final card, I'm going to just use this in what I think of as a more traditional way, but I think that's maybe just because it's how we use them at school, and that is to just trace round with a pen, just using a fine liner pen. And I'm just going to do this express delivery part. So then I'm just going to colour this in red, and then I'm going to outline it in navy. So there's the coloured piece that I've just cut down, and then I'm just going to grab some tape and I'm just going to mask off these couple of snowflakey bits. Not really sure whether they're supposed to be snowflakes or stars, but I'm treating them as snowflakes. And then I'm going to use some Picket Fence Distress Oxide ink just to add some of those around my card. And you'll see I'm just kind of rotating the stencil a bit as I go so that they don't look too uniform. And then I'll just add a few of the little one on its own as well, just to fill in some of the gaps. And there I've just got a little bit out of place there. I'm going to add another one there too, just to hide that. So then I've got my express delivery and I'm going to add that to a piece of red cardstock that's 1/8 of an inch bigger. And then I've also stamped and coloured a centre from the stamp set. So I'm going to add those on foam pads. So then that's that final card finished. So now we've got all 5 of today's cards, I really hope you enjoyed creating them with me. Please do let me know which is your favourite. I'd love to hear in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below. And you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below, and there's also a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.